I gave myself 24 hours to build and create my own AI animated sitcom show using Showrunner, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. To use this, I'm using Showrunner. It is an AI animation tool that lets you create a show by building characters, sets, and short scenes. What's interesting about Showrunner is that you actually get to choose who is in the scene, where it's taking place, and what happens next by a simple prompt. I actually wanted to see if it can help me build a repeatable show engine. So to start off, I started drawing up from my own life, came up with this idea about how I grew up, which is basically working at a convenience store, probably like most Korean kids in Canada or in the States. I grew up very young, like at 6 to 7 years old, stocking shelves, mopping the floors, asking people older than me for ID when they wanted to buy cigarettes and lottery tickets. And I always felt growing up in this environment that there was a lot of passing people in my life, and I felt like I was stuck in there. And this became kind of like the nugget of what I wanted to express in a cool or interesting sitcom idea. What's interesting about sitcoms and shows like Seinfeld, South Park, Simpsons is that they all have a lot of established characters, reoccurring, and as well even interesting environments that become a character of their own. The biggest feeling that always stuck with me working at a convenience store is that everyone else was going somewhere and I was always stuck behind the counter. So what I wanted to do was take this feeling and turn this into a sci-fi comedy. And then so it brought me to this one big question. What if the entire universe was passing through the store and you still couldn't leave? To really help start moving and getting inspired with all this information, I started moving on to ChatGPT to really express what I'm trying to explore here. Here I just kind of made my own thread. I literally wrote down a small mini biography, kind of a bit of a therapeutic moment, if you will, talking to a robot in order to let them know what my upbringing was like, a bit of the idiosyncrasies of working at a store, some interesting metaphors. And at that moment, it started to formulate and help me give me some ideas about a sci-fi setting. And then after that was done, I started working on making this kind of Bible, so to speak, for a show, which is really good to have when you're making any show. You want to establish as much as possible before you make characters and environments, because that usually takes a lot of time and effort, and on a traditional sense, a lot of money. It's really important to always establish something with a story, because everything starts from there. If you have characters or an environment without the story, then it's going to just feel very superficial and shallow. So what came out of that was this show idea called The Last Stop Before Everywhere. And the core premise is at the edge of a known space, the teenage alien hybrid, his name is Drax, he works at this outer transit service station called Z11, and he just basically works at this rundown interstellar convenience shop, where the whole universe takes a break before heading everywhere else. It's basically, he is this NPC character while all these amazing characters are coming and passing through, and then from there really working on character breakdowns. And then from there, I started focusing and building up like the core sets and environments. The first one really being the convenience store itself, and then really building up these ideas and having fun with my imagination to think about what would it be, with having the mess room in there, or Jax is sleeping in a bunker in that spot, or if this is a convenience store, usually there's a really sketchy, terrifying washroom. So if this is like a rundown place, what better place than to have the universe's worst washroom? And from there, building up even more interesting characters. So now let's hop into Showrunner, and I'm going to show you how I start building the characters and the sets using all this information. Let's go.
Showrunner.
Ooh, fancy. When you start in, you get prompted by this first one that's very alluring. It says your next hit show. But before then, they already have a lot of interesting established shows like Exit Valley, that was one of the first ones, Britannia, Everything is Fine, Last Stop Nevada, and basically all of these are interactive shows, meaning you can select characters, you can select the settings, and then you can prompt in what happens next. You also have some really great options over here, like creating your show, create a scene. You can even upload yourself if you want to be in a show that's any of these. Also, there is a growing community of people building out their own shows, so you can check it out over here like such. Okay, so to start building my own show, what I did was I clicked over here into create your new show. And when you're playing with this, you usually get suggestions like this. So these are kind of generated to kind of say, hey, do you want to use any of these? They're kind of established, has an interesting prompt for the premise with the title, some characters, and it's easy as just clicking create. But what I wanted to do was start from scratch. And then from here, you can add in the name, you can put in select the style that goes from claymation to 3D animated, modern, 2D classic, realistic CG, Western comic, and for me, I went with 2D classic. And then based on the document that I had made with LLMs like ChatGPT, it was very easy just to cut and paste into here to get some much more detailed information and back history for this world building exercise. And then after you say and click create show, you'll get something like this on your list. And voila, just like that, you start to get a lot of interesting characters and a cool title. Sometimes you can even go to edit. You can see what the title I put in and a description that I have written about the back story about these people. Like I mentioned, one of the main characters is this alien hybrid teen called Drax. He works at the counter at the Outer Transit Service Station, Z11. One of his co-workers is this actual rundown ATM machine where it's a sentient AI, not helpful at all. He also works with Drax, where she's like this big burly alien woman who's like always cleaning the toilets, and a bunch of interesting characters that come in and out of this shop. What's also great too is you can actually choose the genre, so you can go from comedy, drama, all the way down to family. And I think that really does help you in capturing the best tone for the show that you're working on. And when you go into the full breakdown of the show that you made, you can see you have the options here for create a scene, create an episode, character, and set. And what I did first was I started to create a lot of the characters, starting with Drax. It's as easy as just putting in the name and then bio, role if it's a protagonist, supporting antagonist, voice description, which is really interesting as well to help make that voice as consistent as possible, gender and age. Same thing goes for create a set. It's really easy. You just tap on that, you put the name of what that environment set is like and a description. And then after you got these things set, you can also go over here to cast and set. So we'll look into cast. And you can see I already made quite a few different characters. The first one being Jackson or Jax. Pretty cool. You can already see all the scenes that I've been building here using that character. If you go into edit, you can actually explain more of his bio, role, protagonist, gender, male, age. I'm going to just say like 18 over here. And then save those changes. And for whatever reason, if you ever need to change the design, you can just hit the bottom right button over there of the re-roll, and then that will generate a new character design for you. Surprisingly, my favorite character that I ended up building from this whole thing was this cute little furry character called the Bolgrim. And then after you get your characters and cast, you can start going into sets. So you can see I started building quite a few different ones. I started to think about first what was the actual environment of the main shop where everything takes place here. It's called Station Z11 Retail Floor. Again, I used ChatGPT to help make the prompts and really help describing what this whole environment is like. You can take a screenshot if you want to see and reverse engineer that. After that, I really started getting into thinking what is like the parking lot area of this place is like, and really coming up with ideas down the line of what it was like when I was working at a store and letting people know, hey, you can't park there, it's illegal, or this is only for customers, or if you want to use the washroom, you got to buy something first, some policy, or just for safety concerns really. And then also, like, how does that reinterpret itself into a sci-fi comedy format? So what you can do from here, you can easily create a scene like this. You click on create scene, and then from there you can start to choose all the characters that are involved. I had a bunch of ideas of what I wanted to explore, but I thought what was interesting is even though we're meeting these characters for the first time, they're already been living in this world for quite some time already. and we just want to show kind of like a cold open of what you would have in any show. It's just like a bit of a teaser before we get into the actual full show. And for this one, I had this idea that Jax is working there with the teller, and out of nowhere there is this human being. His name is Evan Rook, and he's escaped. He was abducted from some alien, and he's rushing in and he's trying to get some help. What you can do here is you choose Evan, which was the human that I wanted, and it gets tagged over here as @ and then with Jax, I wanted to put the teller, the ATM fellow over here, and then after that you can click onto sets, you can scroll, and then you can choose which set that you wanted, which I chose this one over here, and it comes out with hashtag station Z11 retail floor. Basically from there I started to use ChatGPT. I did a few tests really to see if it can come up with the script and the action beats. Also at the very top middle you'll see it says create clip, and there's a drop down there where it says vertical, and from there you can actually choose which format you want, which is whether it's vertical or widescreen. For me, I chose vertical because I want to share this as a story for our social media. And then duration, currently for this one it was set to a default of 15 seconds, which is perfect. Also, another interesting point is that even though you have 15 seconds, you don't want to kind of overcomplicate or keep overstuffing a lot of beats and crazy things. Just try to have one clear idea or motive that can last under 15 seconds really, and then you'll get like a really decent output, because after then you can choose create the next scene, which makes it more fun to build and have a really fun stream of consciousness of where you think this idea or scenario can come next. So based on this first idea about Jax is in there, there is an abducted human coming in. Let's see how this plays out.
They're coming for me! Please!
Emergency services go through teller.
Human detected. Support unavailable.
Pretty cool. It's really fun. And it's cool to see that we have, Jax in there, we have the human, and we even have the teller 7, the ATM. The scenario basically is that he has to buy something before he wants to get help. After you have like your first scene set, then you can usually have the option on the plus button over here to create the next scene, or what happens next. But because I already established a few things, I can kind of show you how I've been building up to the next one. So then from here I started to work and explore like what are some next scenes that can come out of this situation. Here's the next one I decided to play with.
I'll pay after, I promise!
That's what the last one said.
Warning. Washroom occupation fee not paid. Washroom occupant has accepted new offering.
Great. Now the bathroom has a hostage.
So now that I had established, Jax is working there with Teller at the convenience store. Evan is like this abducted human who comes in for help. The next logical thing that he probably would do, I guess anybody would do if you're abducted by an alien, is to hide in the washroom. And then from the washroom, I started getting this idea that I wanted to foreshadow that there was this impending doom that was coming in there. So let me show you what this next scene came out of that.
Okay, I'm safe. Nobody knows I'm here. No! Toilets don't do that! Toilets don't do that!
I just fed you 20 minutes ago, you ungrateful drain hole!
And there you have it. That's also, by the way, my favorite character that came out of this whim, which is the Bolgrim, this monster that actually lives in the toilet. And the idea about that was it's actually a pet and you have to feed it, and that's why it became one of the most dangerous spots in the universe, which is like this nefarious toilet, which is kind of funny. Goes to show you, sometimes the environment is a character. By the way, there could be some things here that worked and didn't work for me. An interesting way that you can do to re-roll a scene is at the I button, the info button. You can click on that. You can actually see the prompt that you use, the characters involved in the set, and instead of retyping everything, you can just click on reuse prompt. And then from there, you'll get the character breakdown as well as the scene and the format. I think what was helpful for me that I started building on this format was I had like a scene title to work off of, and then the characters written down along with the set, and then the format, how many beats, what's the genre, and the mood, gross, frantic, absurd, darkly funny, and then what happens along with the dialogue. So breaking it down into beats as well as dialogue points over here, like Evan, he says, okay, I'm safe, and really bring it all the way down until the last line. And then so from there, my next thought was, what happens? Okay, I just killed Evan. Oh boy, that's the end? But I went back into the idea that he is actually running away from someone. So that's where I started coming up with this character, otherwise known as Valor Ren. Not to be associated with Kylo Ren or anything like that. And the idea for him is that he's more like of a Star Trek kind of character, very regal or anything, but could have some nefarious background because for whatever reason he had abducted Evan, that we'll probably figure out as we play and progress through the story. And then so after creating Valor Ren as a character design, I started thinking about how does he get introduced into the story and how do we keep pushing the story forward. And this is what I came up with.
I seek the human called Evan.
Processed human meats on aisle 4.
The bull gland clogged the toilet again!
Nothing like some good old-fashioned sci-fi slapstick, right? So that was a really fun part, is like thinking, how can I keep pushing the story forward, establishing what had just happened. He's coming in, he's asking about Evan. There's a small joke from Drax about like, is it alive or human processed meat, aisle 3? And then out of nowhere, Drax comes in with Evan's severed hand. But you can really see from here how much and how easy it is to start pushing these ideas forward and really build out a cool story. And after all that is done, you can actually just click and select all the scenes that you want to create an episode. So what's really interesting at this point, I started taking a break from just relying on the LLM and just prompting straight inside Showrunner. I thought what was interesting is that sometimes, even if you make a very short premise, you kind of just let Showrunner do its own thing, and I think that's where the charm comes out of. My biggest takeaway with using Showrunner and tools like this is that, it's really fun and exciting how animation, particularly generative AI, is evolving and really playing and exploring the procedurally generated aspect of it. However, it's still really fun and it's still important that you still need to do a lot of writing, directing, really think about the world that you're trying to create, because it doesn't necessarily replace the taste that you have in mind, or it does not replace the structure. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily know what is funny, but you can really help push that forward to find something even better. And more exciting is once you have something like this down, you have some likable, interesting, quirky characters. My favorite part that I'm excited about is letting other people into this world, exploring and kind of really shape what these characters could be. So then after 24 hours, you can kind of see I've already built a world of characters, of environments, a lot of different scenarios that I'm really looking forward to keep building more and more as this idea and story progresses. What's even more exciting is giving people the ability to enter into this world, explore and kind of control these characters and see how much more crazy scenarios and ideas we can get out of that. And yes, the show is messy, the tools can be a bit weird, the continuity breaks and stuff, but we're still very early with all this technology. If you can even imagine what people had thought of generative AI, where you could barely get a face, and then people were making fun of 6 fingers, to now like heavily scrutinizing the shadow on a wall in a video to see that it's fake or not. I think we have to start focusing on like what is possible in creating and developing this new genre of entertainment that is not cinema, it is not a game, and it's just something in between, which I think is really, really exciting. But that's everything. That is the show, the last stop before Everywhere. If you have an awesome idea or premise, do you think you would love to see Jax or Ma or the Bullgram or anyone else in this show that I made, and what kind of interesting scenarios that they can come into, please put it into the comments below. So thank you again for watching. I really hope that you got something interesting out of how I even build my own AI animated sitcom show using Showrunner. If you have your own ideas, it'd be amazing to see it. Even some ideas and premises for The Last Stop Before Everywhere, please put it into the comments. I love to put them in there as well. And join in, see what we can build together. So my name is Wilfred Lee. Thank you so much for watching the artist journey and this breakdown utilizing and showing Showrunner. If you're interested in looking and learning more about these type of shows and breakdowns and tools, please like and subscribe. Thanks.